and people, it was quite an event. But happy National Poetry Month and happy Jazz History Month.
Thank you. And thanks for being here.
Sure.
This is National Poetry Month. And also on Friday, April 1st, last Friday, I did issue a proclamation for Poetry Month in Carrboro. And Fred was kind enough to join me at WCHL to do a reading on the air to kick off Poetry Month for us. He read, I believe it was one of his own pieces, called Solidarity, which I appreciated very much. And Fred is here tonight to get us rolling as we enter the second week of Poetry Month.
Definitely. I'm going to read a poem by a poet, Salvadorian poet named Roque Dalton. That was the name he was known as, but he has a much longer name, which I don't want to butcher, but I invite you to look him up. Very important Salvadorian poet. Roque is spelled Roque, Dalton. Very important poet to the Salvadorian people. And so this is a poem, one of his, a pretty well-known poem. It was made even more well-known by an American poet here named Martina Spada, who named an anthology after a line of poetry from this poem I'm about to read. The line is, well, I don't want to take it. I don't want to take the thunder away from this line because it's a beautiful line. So the poem is called Like You. Like you, I love life, the sweet smell of things, the sky blue landscape of January days. And my blood boils up and I laugh through eyes that have known the buds of tears. I believe the world is beautiful and that poetry, like bread, is for everyone. And that my veins don't end in me, but in the unanimous blood of those who struggle for life, love, little things, landscape and bread, the poetry of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful.
So that's Roque Dalton. The name of the anthology that Martina Spada edited is called Poetry Like Bread. So it's an easy one to find. You can find it out on Amazon, or you could probably order it through some of our local bookshops. But it's a beautiful, beautiful collection of poems.
Thank you so much, Fred. And it was a lot of fun seeing you and hanging out on Friday.
Thank you.
So looking forward to see you every Tuesday this week, or one of your special guests. I don't know what you got planned for us. But
yeah, I'm gonna talk to some of my poetry co-conspirators and see who wants to see who's going to come and share with us all. So I look forward to it too.
All right. Thanks so much, Fred. See you next time.
Thank you. Have a good meeting.
All right. And Wesley, let's just be sure we note that Sammy is here. Hey, Sammy, welcome. Joined us just as Fred was coming in, so perfect timing. Okay, we also have a resolution tonight. This is a resolution that came forward from a local resident, and I believe, although I may get this wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Susan and perhaps Randy were involved in drafting a resolution for this, and so I'll hand this over to Susan, if I'm right about that.
Did you want me to go ahead and read it then? Or actually this proclamation really came from Terry Buckner, and I don't know if she's here, but she would be the one who would best speak to it.
Yeah,
I'm happy to too.
I don't see that Terry is here, and everyone, you saw the resolution in your packets for today. This is a resolution recognizing Native Plant Month, and of course speaking to the importance of native plants in the broader ecosystem. It's a pretty short resolution, I think. Susan, if you wouldn't mind reading that for folks who are listening.
I'm happy to.
Thank you.
Whereas native plants are indigenous species that have evolved and occur naturally in a particular region, ecosystem, and habitat, and whereas native plants are vital for maintaining and restoring the healthy ecosystem needed to sustain our environment, including but not limited to seed dispersal, pollination of crops and natural vegetation, prevention of flooding, drought, and erosion, regulation of disease-carrying organisms, and moderation of weather extremes. And whereas North Carolina is home to more than 3,900 native plant species, including trees, shrubs, vines, grasses, and wildflowers, making it one of the most diverse states for native plants in the Southeast. And whereas native plants provide shelter as well as nectar, pollen, and seeds that serve as food for native butterflies, insects, birds, amphibians, and other wildlife in ways that non-native plants cannot. And whereas 969 of the native plant species in North Carolina have been designated as significantly rare and/or in decline and may be in danger of extinction. And whereas 94 of those 969 imperiled plants have been found in Orange County, and whereas habitat loss and degradation, extreme weather events, and invasive species have contributed to the decline of native plants in North Carolina and Orange County, and whereas native plants are essential components of resilient ecosystems and our natural heritage, now therefore be it resolved that the Carrboro Town Council designates April 2022 as Native Plant Month and recognizes the benefits of native plants to the environment and the economy of the town of Carrboro.
Thanks very much. I take that as a motion to approve that resolution by you, Susan.
Yes, it is.
I second that, Mayor.
Randy, are you seconding that resolution, that motion?
No, Barb seconded, but I wanted to make a comment.
Okay, seconded by Barbara. Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Terry for bringing forth the proclamation and let folks know that you can access a native plant list on the Town of Carrboro website or contact Laura Janway, our environmental planner. The Town of Carrboro, for at least the last decade, has made recommendations about specific plants that not only are they native to North Carolina, but they are important pollinators, as was read in the proclamation. So thank you, Terry, and thank you, Susan, for moving this forward, Barbara for seconding it, and being supportive.
Great. Thanks, Randy. All right, we have a motion by Susan and a second by Barbara to approve the resolution recognizing Native Plant Month. I will do a roll call vote, and that goes first to Barbara.
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Danny?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
I vote aye. The matter passes unanimously. Thanks again, Susan, for helping move that along.
And thank you, Terry, for bringing that before us.
Very much. All right, next up is an announcement of upcoming meetings. Wesley?
Thank you, Mayor. The Appearance Commission will be meeting on April 7th at 7:30 p.m. The Northern Transition Area Advisory Committee will also be meeting April 7th at 7:30 p.m. Planning Board meeting April 7th at 7:30 p.m. Transportation Advisory Board, April 7th at 7:30 p.m. Recreation and Parks Commission meeting, April 11th at 7 p.m. And then, of course, as the mayor mentioned, the town council meeting next Tuesday will be at Town Hall at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Randy?
Yeah, the Environmental Advisory Board is at 7 on the 7th as well, preceding the Planning Board.
Thank you, Randy. Susan and then Barbara.
The Local Government Affordable Housing Collaborative is also on Thursday from 5:30 to 7.
Thank you. Barbara, and then I'll go back to Randy.
Thank you, Mayor. Wesley, did you, I believe Human Services may be deliberating on Monday the 11th. Did you have that?
I didn't have it on the our calendar, but I can double
Maybe
check.
it hasn't been finalized yet. Maybe it hasn't been finalized yet. Thank you. And also I wanted to take a minute to mention the House Us Now marching into April for Affordable Housing Rally, which will be held Saturday. starting at Peace and Justice Plaza, advocating for 30% AMI and below, and hope to see you there if you're able to make it. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Randy?
Yeah, Damon, I've been looking to see if this is correct, but I wanted to mention the electric bus unveiling on Friday at 11. Is that a public invitation or?
Invitation. If there are council members who haven't received that invitation, please let us know and we'll send that along to you. But as Randy mentioned, on Friday at 11 a.m., there will be the official unveiling of Chapel Hill Transit's new batch of electric buses. I believe Congressman Price will be present and other folks, including Randy and myself, and as well as members of the Partners Committee from Chapel Hill and our friends at UNC as well. So that's coming up and it'll be an exciting event. Sammy.
Yes, also simultaneous to the electric bus unveiling, I would be at that. Unfortunately, the community rooted practices for community development will be happening at the same time from 11 to 2. And again, if there are any council members who are interested, it should be a really interesting training on how to facilitate and maximize historically disenfranchised communities participating within government and sharing their lived experiences.
Thank you, Sammy. Yeah, that training looks really good. The people doing it are fantastic. One other thing that I'll mention is that on Friday, which Susan is going to attend around that same time, is the steering committee meeting for the county's master aging plan. So I appreciate Susan stepping in for me there since I have to be at the electric bus event. Susan, you have your hand up also, and then Barbara.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I just wanted to add one more thing. Randy, my understanding is the unveiling of the electric buses is a public event. It's open to the public. And just to add one more detail, it will be at the Park and Ride on Eubanks Road.
Thank you, Susan. Barbara?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to Councilmember Slade's announcement. I did see that and would have loved to been able to attend, but it came like very short notice. And so I was not able to fit it into my schedule. I did mention to Ashley about, possibility of maybe recording it. I don't know if that's possible, or making some information available from that event, for those of us who can't make it, maybe some type of on demand, or something like that. So I just wanted to ask Councilmember Slade about that, because I was real interested in it when I saw it.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Fushi. I'll take full responsibility. This was forwarded well in advance, and somehow it slipped my notice for forwarding to the council. So I take full responsibility for that, and I'm very sorry because it is such a great event. But I will ask to see and encourage for a recording to be done, because I think it will be valuable just the same. Again, sorry about that.
Yeah, thanks for looking into that, Sammy. If it is available to us on a recorded basis, that would be great. Okay, thanks for all the additional notes there, everybody. I'm gonna move along, I think. Next item on our agenda is we usually reserved for public comment for matters not on our agenda, and I'm just checking our list here real quick. We had a couple people signed up, but they are not here, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. Mr. Manager, we're now up to the consent agenda. All yours.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on the consent agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 1st, 2022 meeting. The second item is a request to set a public hearing for consideration of a minor modification to the Winmore VMU conditional use permit. The town council is asked to adopt a resolution setting a public hearing date for consideration of a minor modification to the conditional use permit for Winmore VMU. The modification will allow conversion of lot 179 to 3 single-family lots and assign the community pool to serve as a civic use for the VMU. The next item is an amendment to Chapter 4 of the Town Code to include administrative leave. The purpose of this item is to add administrative leave as a leave type to Chapter 4 personnel policies.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Is there well, looks like does anything need to be pulled? Sammy and then Randy and then Barbara.
Yes, apologies. I haven't gotten around to seeing the minutes. If we could hold those again, sorry.
Okay, Randy?
Yeah, my question had to do with number 3.
Hold off before you ask a question, and we'll just hold on to number 3 there. Barbara, which one did you want to pull?
I didn't have a question about the consent agenda. I need to back up because Sophie and Soteria are here to speak about something. And I'm not sure if it's later or if it was something general and not related to the.
They were signed up, but I'm not seeing them in
They must be under Grow Your World. Do you see Grow Your World there?
Sorry, I didn't realize that.
That's okay. That's okay, Mayor.
We'll go back to that after we finish up what we're doing here on the consent agenda. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Recognize the name there. Okay, so we've had a request to pull items 1 and 3. Is there a motion to approve item number 2? By Susan. Is there a second? By Barbara. It's been moved and seconded that we approve item number 2 on the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye or say no if you don't approve, and I'll do a roll call vote. Barbara.
Aye.
Randy.
Aye.
Danny.
Aye.
Susan.
Aye.
Sammy.
Aye.
I vote aye. That matter passes unanimously, and we are holding off on the item number 1, which is the minutes of the February 1st meeting. And Randy, you pulled item number 3. Go ahead.
You want me to ask my question? Susan asked a question about the date for the administrative leave should. I think she gave March 13th, 2020, and I wanted to be clear from the manager whether we needed to go back to March 13th, 2020 for this town code, or does it start with right now? I want to be clear on that. It's a minor point, but and if we were going back, why would we? So, Mr. Manager, can you respond to that? Would you respond to that?
Yes, this leave that we're requesting here is not related to COVID. It's related to the personnel ordinances that we have. And so this is used for a different purpose than under the court COVID guidelines, which were federal and state guidelines we follow for that. So this leave would be effective as of today, not retroactive back to March, because it's not related to COVID.
Right, that's what I thought, and that's what I just wanted to hear that clearly stated. Thanks. I'll move the item then.
Okay, motion by Randy to approve item number 3 on the consent agenda, and a second by Danny. I will do a roll call vote. Barbara.
Aye.
I should have this memorized by now. Randy.
Aye.
Danny.
Aye.
Susan.
Aye.
Sammy.
Aye.
I vote aye. That matter also passes unanimously. Thanks, Randy, for clarifying that for us, and Richard. Okay, let's get back to item D on the agenda, which is public comment for matters not on our agenda. And Wesley, would you pull over the user named Grow Your World, please? Hello, Soteria and or Sophie. Oh, you're both there. Great. Okay. Welcome, and it's nice to see you both. So as you know, we generally ask our speakers to keep their comments to about 3 minutes. There are 2 of you, so each of you take that time if you would, and the floor is yours. And Sophie, do you want to, or Soteria, which I'm not sure which of you wants to speak, or both of you, but go ahead.
Yeah, we'll probably tag team. So first I want to say thank you to you, Mayor, to the council members who reached out, to the amazing community members who have been texting me, sending us Instagram messages, to Ryan, who if I could have a picture of an ally mascot, it would be Ryan right now. So I'm going to read what I have here, and then I'll give Sophie some time to speak. Due to a racially charged incident that occurred during a private event over the weekend at Present Day on Main, we are going to actively continue to work to update and amend our safety protocols to better protect ourselves, our employees, and our customers, and those who are on our property. While here at a private event, a white woman, we will call her Karen for the sake of Karen, came, and she was asked to leave, just like everyone who came during that private event was asked to leave. Most people did not have a problem. 99% of the people did not. This particular woman refused to leave. At this point during the party, unfortunately, all the Black people were inside. I think we got very hot and came in and take a water break because of the sun. And then sadly, all the white people were outside during this time. This woman was white. I asked her in a very polite way. I ma'amed her so much I could have threw up. Just said, ma'am, this is a private party. I would like you to leave. Unfortunately, you can't be here now. She goes to proceed to leave some campaign literature down, and then she's walking further into the shop. She sees two Black guests, so she comes back down into near the side door, if you guys have ever been here. And then she goes to the bathroom, so she's just not leaving. Fred Joyner was also a witness to this, along with some other Black leaders. And so we are all just like, what's happening? I again asked her to leave. She then decides to call us you people. You people are making a big deal about this. You people are being aggressive. So your girl is from the South Side. So I was like, listen, ma'am, I'm going to need you to go ahead and go. My friend comes in front of me because this woman is refusing to leave. She's coming towards me, getting in my face. As the other Black guest is coming, we're trying to get her out of the space and get away from her. She decides that she is going to assault one of the Black women who was here. And then she yells outside and says, I'm calling 911. That is when a good friend of ours and our family, Ryan, just jumps in. The police come, and I'll read this. So due to this event, we're going to work on our safety protocols, like I said. Unfortunately, we did not see the assistance from the town of Carrboro Police Department dealing with this event. The response by law enforcement tended towards victim blaming rather than holding the person responsible accountable for her bad actions. We know we cannot change the hearts and mind of those limited by racist and discriminatory views overnight. However, we hope that our municipality would better handle this type of racially motivated event to protect Black business owners, Black guests, and the public in general. We look forward to proactively working with town council members and the police department to rectify this inequity and to continue to combat the institutionalized racism and discrimination and how our municipality interacts with its citizens. I cannot continue to tell Black and brown people that they will come here and be safe when I call the police and he spends more time on his phone talking to her than he does me. When we let him know that there was a guest, a Black woman assaulted by a white woman, he says to her she has to go to Hillsborough Courthouse to file a charge, which she did, only to find about 4 sentences in the police report. And because I cannot in my right mind sleep at night knowing that if somebody is assaulted on my property and I call the police here and tell them what happened when we have multiple witnesses, they will still take the side of a white woman. I can no longer allow the public to come on this property. What does that mean, Soteria? Effective immediately, present day on Main is going to be shut the fuck down until we can come to a resolution that is going to protect Black and brown people, including myself. There is no way I would have walked and got in my Audi and left had I assaulted a white woman, whether it was on my property or not. I'm over time. So I'm going to fall back and let my wife talk.
Thank you, Soteria. Sophie, go ahead.
Imagine not being able to protect your wife. And I know some of you can, so my apologies, but I am speaking to the white people. Because if Black people had the power in this situation, and I know people are people, no one is a monolith, but this is our problem. Unpaid Black people in positions of racial equity, task forces, etc., cannot do the work of undoing racism. It is our job. We have a town motto of feel free. And white people, we feel free. You all are our town leaders. Stop. So please lead. Please help us understand. Please do the hard things. It is hard. Look to the Black woman in leadership in the town. They do it all the time. Every single day, Black women are showing up to lead in our town. Look at them. Look to them. Ask them. Pay them. They know what we need. This is not new. We don't need to meet about this. We don't need to do a study. None of us would switch places with a Black person. Who would? Say it. Say you would. Couldn't pay you. Couldn't pay me. Out of your mind. It's been 48 hours. I'm completely exhausted by this. I have never had to fight so hard for justice. Ever. It's logic. But then you put a Black face on it and all the logic goes away. Please do something.
Thank you, sir. Well, I do want to first say to both Soteria and Sophie that I've told them this both in person, that how much I appreciated the opportunity to sit down and just hear from you about not only the incident, but also sort of the broader questions that you've raised here that create a context where incidents like this just sort of are let go, right, and happen all the time. And so I want to appreciate you spending that time with me and also coming here tonight to highlight that this is not one incident, right? This is every day. And especially, Sophie, I want to appreciate you for reminding those of us white folks in the room that this is a white people problem. And that's where we need to start. So thank you. I'm also hearing I also want to just affirm that I did hear, Soteria, to talk about interactions you had with member of the employee of the police department, officer who came to the incident to take a report. I have talked to the town manager, let him know that this incident happened, and that just so that would be on his radar. And so we'll continue to talk about that with him. There are processes in our police department, as there are in any department, of course, about if there is a concern about how an incident was handled, how a report was taken, how the incident is reflected in public records, and so on. And so we can continue to have a conversation about that and make sure that, as you said, Sophie, that justice is done here, that's the approach that we're taking to this. So thank you again. I want to see if anyone else has any thoughts to share, and Barbara has raised her hand. Barbara?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Sophie and Soteria, for coming in and being candid, and sharing your experience. These are things that we need to hear about, and publicly, because so many times stuff like this gets shuffled. It's under the rug, it's hidden, you don't hear about it. So thank you for bringing it forward. We're here for you. We're here to support you. And I think I can speak for all of my colleagues. We believe in justice. We believe in equity. And we're here to surround you with love and any other type of support that you may need from the town of Carrboro. And certainly, I don't know what happened with the police officer. That's out of my scope. So I'm not going to say anything about that, but certainly Black and brown folks' history, with the police department, it's like it's constantly, being shoved in our faces, right? It's constantly in the forefront. And so I apologize, for the way that you were treated. I wasn't there. I heard about it, of course, you and I had the conversation. But, it just makes me feel bad. It hurts me because it could be me. It could be my husband. It could be anybody with this color skin, right? So that it just hurts, and then all the good that you guys do in this community, the way you give of yourselves through your business and that beautiful outdoor space, all the work that you poured into it, and the work that you do even outside of present day on Main that impacts people's lives. I see you.
Thank you, Barbara.
I see you. And thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to have a moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy and then Sammy.
Recently you've had several instances that are traumatizing, and this is wrong. It's wrong. It was wrong the first time. It's wrong every time. And, and Sophie, I really appreciate you saying that, we're feel free in motto only, and we're feel free to only, white people, they have that freedom. And Black and brown folks in the community don't have the freedom. What's really painful is to know this is your private space, your own space. You own that space, and it's not protected. I appreciate when we spoke that you shared a couple of very concrete things that we could be doing to ensure that your space is safe. And I'm hoping that those things that you shared will be shared with the town manager and with staff, so that we can, pursue the practical matter. But we as a council need to address in very real terms the racial discrepancy. It is present, and it is painful, and it traumatizes folks in our community. We are not doing a substantive job of protecting the well-being of all of our citizens. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Sammy?
I just want to express gratitude for y'all's presence here. As white people, it's very easy to not be aware of all that you have described, and the discomfort is warranted. We need to feel the discomfort. We need to feel the fire that you guys feel, because things need to change. So firstly, I just want to express gratitude, as Barbara did, and Randy, for your being here tonight and sharing your pain with us. I'm very sorry for that. And again, as an elected official, also, I would like to apologize as part of this was part of our police force, and I don't know the details, but to the extent that it is potentially a town staff issue, that's our responsibility. And I'm glad to hear that there have been some concrete points that we may be able to look at materially in terms of how to address this. But in the long term and overall, this is an issue, a cultural issue, an issue of the South that we are a part of, that we have a long, sad, tragic, grotesque history of, and it hasn't gone away. It's still here. So thank you, and sorry for having to be the ones to bring this to light and make it a reminder for us with privilege that we easily forget. So again, thanks a lot, and I'll personally try to do all I can in this regard.
Thank you, Sammy. Danny, and then Susan.
Sophie and Soteria, thank you all very much. And I just really want to quickly express that your urgency, your call to urgency is very well heeded. I know that y'all have been hearing about policy, this town is working on this in ways that you have heard about. And I know that you have heard about timelines and goals and things like that. And I just want you to know that we understand that this shifts the urgency and those goals, and that, the experience that y'all are having, it brings to mind the old quote, the last person to suffer for an unjust policy or for a lack of action. How do you explain that to them? How do you apologize? I really hope that y'all are the last people to suffer from this lack of action and these policies. And I'm sorry that you're in that position very much. This is pretty heavy, that this happens. And I just want you to know that it's heavy for me. And I think I speak for all of our colleagues when we hear it, and we will take the urgency to heart.
Thanks, Danny. Susan?
Yeah, thank you all for your comments. And Sophie and Soteria, I just wanted you to know, I did not know about this incident until just now when you spoke to it. So it was, I just want you to know, it was very courageous of you to share this with us this evening. And I'm looking forward over the next few days, learning more and seeing how I can help and whatever I can do. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. And council members, I just want to thank you all for your openness to this conversation and the spirit that you're approaching it with, and want to echo everyone's gratitude to Soteria and Sophie for being here tonight. And also reaffirm my commitment, as I said earlier, to continue having a conversation with the town manager about some of the particulars that you raised about the incident and how it was handled, and how you experienced it in that moment, and what the follow-up has been or hasn't been. And we'll certainly be doing more of that. The last thing I want to say to both of you is how much, and I told Soteria this the other day, but how much I just appreciate the space that you've created for the community. And it really pains me, of course, not as much as it pains you, but certainly pains me to know that you're feeling like you need to step back for a moment and really seriously consider whether you can keep doing that in the way that you envision doing it. But I want you to know that, at least from my perspective, and from people I know who spend time in your space, that it really is a gem for this community. And I hope that we can keep working on it together to realize the vision that I know you both have for it. So thank you. Okay.
I'm sorry, Mayor. May I just one last thing? So this is not the first incident there, and I do want to bring that forward. This is really heavy, and they need help carrying this. It's not the first go round for them. With an incident of this nature. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Soteria and Sophie, thanks again for coming and spending time with us today. I know it takes courage to do that, and you are, as always, displaying courage to us here and to everyone who's listening. So thank you for that.
I want to say thank you all too. And we've talked about solutions. It can be, I don't want to say fixed, but made better. I think as a Black person, I'm not looking for fixing at this point. I'm just looking for things to be made better. I can take someone coming on my property and asking me why am I here and telling me to go to the back door, which has happened on the property. I can't watch another Black person be told to go to the black door or to the back door or the black door, whatever they want to call it. So there are solutions that we've talked about, and I understand. I don't understand about how all this stuff works. But as you all know, and I said to the mayor, I think this is also super important. Sophie and I have 3 jobs. The shop is one of 3 jobs. We have taken time away from ourselves and other work that we are also passionate about to pour into this community. The reason that needs to be made very clear is because we went over a year without paying ourselves because we did not get a $42,000 restaurant revitalization grant. So we halted everything. We have me and Sophie and one other staff person because we could no longer afford to keep all the staff people we had. That is why we had to let people go. Then we had to suffer through that verbal abuse because we didn't just tell everybody we don't have money anymore. We can't continue to pay you, and we're working for free. So we want to be here. I want to be here. Put that on the record. I love this town for some weird reason. You're the man in the burger that ain't good for me, but I keep coming back. I'm saying we need help, and please help us until we can get some solutions. I am not just meeting to meet. We have done that. Somebody has to come, and y'all know where we're going to be, to say, what are the solutions? And this is the time. When we talk about getting some better fencing, when we are allowed to get better signage, then we will talk about reopening. Until then, I'm not going to do this to somebody. If that woman had died in this shop or on this land, I would have never been able to forgive myself, because like Barbara said, it was not the first time. So I am begging y'all to help us with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Soteria. Sammy, is that a new raised hand?
Yeah, I just wanted to, sounded like there are some things that could help that have been written down and that we're going to be forwarded to the town manager. I just wanted to make sure that that is also forwarded to the town council so that we are in the loop.
Okay, thank you. And I will, as I said, I'll follow up again with the manager to discuss this further. And Richard, will have this on our agenda for our next meeting. Okay, y'all. I'm wishing you a good night tonight, and thanks again for being here tonight and sharing with us. Okay. Just take a moment here, everybody. We're going to move along to the agenda here. I know we moved through the consent agenda already, and we're done with that. We have a few items on our agenda tonight, including starting with a public hearing. And so I'm going to turn it over to the manager to get us started with that.
The next item is a public hearing on financing for the 203 South Greensboro Street property and the adoption of a resolution supporting the application to the Local Government Commission. First item is to take comments from the public on a proposed financing contract for the town share the acquisition, construction, and equipping the Plan 203 South Greensboro Street project and adopt a resolution supporting an application to the Local Government Commission.
Thanks, Richard. Is there a presentation from staff on this matter?
I believe our Finance Director, Arch McAdoo, is on the call. I don't know if he's been brought up. Let's see.
We'll bring him over. Welcome, Arch. Hopefully Arch is with us. And Arch, if you're trying to speak, you're still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. And we can see.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Again, good evening, Mayor, members of the Town Council. I do not have a formal presentation for this public hearing tonight. However, I will be available for questions that may arise.
Okay, thanks, Arch. I think this, one thing I'll just note before we do have some people signed up to speak tonight. And I think that's worth noting, as Arch mentioned, that, or implied perhaps, maybe I shouldn't put words in Arch's mouth, but the information shared in the agenda packet about the installment financing contract that we're proposing to enter into is identical to the information that the council has received previously. I believe it was on March 15th during a meeting when we reviewed and approved the final construction budget for the project. So all those numbers are the same as we've seen before and have discussed before. And I just want to reaffirm that. I believe that I'm accurately stating that. Arch, you can confirm that.
Yes, you are. The information tonight is basically the information that was in the amended capital improvement project orders that was passed on the 15th of March.
Great. So our public hearing tonight is a step that is required by statute whenever the town or a town wants to enter into a debt financing agreement. That has to go before the Local Government Commission for their review and holding a public hearing. So to hear from the public about that proposal is a part of that process. So I think what we will do first is we will hear from the members of the public who have come to speak. And I'm going to start with just kind of go in the order that I received the names, assuming that they're here in the list. First person is not in the list. Neither is the second person. The third person is. So Wesley, will you please bring over Mauricio Solano, please? Mauricio, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
So I'll just first want to welcome you to the meeting, and I'll just say that we generally ask our public speakers to keep their comments to around 3 minutes or so. And so I'll set a timer, but I'll try not to be too obnoxious about it.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. First, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry for the Sophie and Sotera situation. My comment is about, I have a small comment about 203 project from El Centro Hispano, Casa de Empleo y Liderazgo. This is a program for ECH. We will make contact with Barnhill Contract Company because it is important for us that this company know about sales and its workers. This project could be a great opportunity for them. In the same way, it could be an opportunity for other workers of La Esquina. Right now, we have 1,059 workers registered. So far this fiscal year, we have around 181 workers registered. So we thought, I believe this project is a great opportunity for that workers. The workers improve its skills in electrical wiring, in HVAC, in OSHA. So maybe this project is a opportunity for them. That is all for me. Again, thank you for this opportunity.
Mauricio, thank you so much for sharing that with us tonight. It's something that I think we haven't talked enough about. And when we've talked about this project, and it's the opportunity it presents for local workers to participate in the contracts and subcontracts. I know that our contractor or construction manager has committed to expanding those opportunities in the process of doing that work. So thank you for lifting that up for us. It's really important. Randy, I'm hoping that we can move through the public comment before we hear from council members, but do you have something that you want to say now?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, first of all, thank you, Mauricio, for being very specific in the request. We have asked, I know Barbara has brought up the question about the construction in Barnhill reaching out to local workers and especially those in the Black and Brown community. I do want to ask our manager to specifically make note to Barnhill to connect with and give them or share the information of contact information with Mauricio, with the construction manager, so that they can have that conversation. Thank you again, Mauricio.
Thank you, Randy.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks again, Mauricio.
Okay.
We're going to
have a good night.
You too. Thanks for being here. We're going to move on to our next speaker, and that is Margot Stein, who I do not see. And also, folks, we did receive, as you know, several emails from folks, and I'll acknowledge the folks who received emails from. Some of them said they might attend the meeting tonight, and others were just writing to us. But I don't see this person in the list this evening. So next up is Diana Newton. So Wesley, will you pull over Diana Newton, please? Good evening, Diana. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Jamons and all the council members. A very sobering evening on the council here. I really just have a question about this item, and I'm looking at attachment A number 2E that says the council believes that the effect on the town's budget and the tax rate impact will be reasonable under all the circumstances. My question is, tax rate is a number. So what is reasonable, and what might we citizens expect in terms of tax rate changes as a result of debt financing?
Sure. Thanks for your question.
Sure.
I think I know the answer, but rather than step out on that ledge, I will turn it back over to either Arch or Richard to answer that question.
Great.
Okay. The debt that has been proposed does not envision raising the tax rate in order to repay that debt. We are moving forward with the idea that we will maintain the tax rate as it is, and that there will be no increase in the general tax rate to repay this debt.
Okay. That's certainly good news. I just might suggest that the language could be clearer, because people would like to know that that's what you anticipate. Reasonable sounds like there will be one.
Well, there is in another part of the application for that is specifically addressed to the LGC, because they asked that question specifically. What will you increase your tax rate to? And our response has been that we will cover that out of the existing tax rate.
Thanks very much, Art, for answering that question. Diana, thank you for the question. It's an important one.
Check. Yeah.
Appreciate it. We'll move along to the next speaker, and at least on my list is Melody Kramer, who I thought I saw in the waiting room, but appears to have, oh, there's Melody. So Wesley, can we pull over Melody Kramer, please? Melody, welcome to our Zoom universe.
Hi, how's it going?
As you know, we ask speakers to keep their comments to about 3 minutes or so, and you already know that. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say that I'm very much in support of this project. We were talking about it earlier today. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and we go to the Chapel Hill Public Library every single Saturday morning. We drive there, and on the way to pick them up from school today, we were saying, my gosh, they'll be able to take the bus, or they'll be able to walk there, and they might be a little older, so we could send them downtown and off on their own, and we're really, as a family, looking forward to this library. I think that having everything centralized will be really helpful and add to our downtown. I know that there has been some opposition to this project, and I would encourage you all to listen to the dozens and dozens of people who have participated in this process over the many years that it has taken place, and please don't discount them at the end of the process if a few loud voices come in. I gave additional remarks in an email, which I'm all discombobulated, so I do not remember. But I'm actually in library school, and so last week in my collections management class, I mentioned that this was ongoing in Carrboro, and asked what people would do if they received this kind of pushback at the end of a project. And my classmates and my teacher actually pointed to a number of other towns around the country and in Canada where this is also taking place, and talked about the public sphere kind of being pushed back against. And that really concerns me. And I think we need public spaces that anybody can go to and be present in. I think we need spaces that are like a third space that are not work or home. And I can think of no better spot than the public library for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mel. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Appreciate you being here and sharing those thoughts with us.
Thank you.
Right. I want to also just acknowledge right now that we did receive written comment from a number of folks in the community, including Melody, as she mentioned, sent us an email. We received written comments from Kathy Kaufman, Becky Laskody, sorry if I mispronounced their last name, Patrick McDonough, Melva Oken, and Kurt Stolka. I'm looking back through our speaker list to make sure I didn't miss anyone. I don't think that I did, but we'll see if anybody pops in. We may be running a little late. Okay, so council members, we have heard from the members of the public who showed up tonight. We had our written comments shared with us as well, and happy to hear your thoughts. And Sammy, and then Barbara. Thanks.
Yeah, so Damon, I emailed Wesley earlier about wanting to speak as a public citizen. So I would like to be included on your list for my 3 minutes and for that purpose.
Sammy, you have the floor and you get more than 3 minutes because you're in our group.
Okay, thank you. These are my comments as a public citizen, and in part because this is a public hearing tonight, and I want to make sure that this is recorded as part of the minutes. And as council people, we typically don't have our remarks or comments recorded. And since this is part of the LGC application, I think it's very important that it be recorded. So tonight, you are receiving comments from the public on the proposed installment financing contract for the 203 project, and the town council is asked to adopt a resolution supporting an application to the local government commission for its approval of town financing of the 203 South Greensboro Street project. In the resolution that the town is asked to adopt, a finding of fact that needs to be agreed on is, and I quote, E, given the town's need and desire for the 203 project, the council believes that the effect on the town's budget and the tax rate impact will be reasonable under all circumstances. The town council will work to minimize the tax rate impact of the borrowing in a manner consistent with moving forward with the project and addressing the full range of town needs. End quote. Meanwhile, the town has a set goal of achieving an 80% reduction of 2010 level greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. Furthermore, the council asked staff 3 years ago through a resolution called the Resolution Regarding Climate Action Goals and Budget Plan on June 25th, 2019, for a 10-year budget plan to achieve that goal. I've emailed the town clerk that resolution as an attachment of my email, that these comments that I'm reading for inclusion as part of my comments as a citizen in this public hearing. Town staff has failed to act on that request despite reminders for it as part of a budgeting cycle every year since. The town council can claim that it believes that the effect of financing this project on the town's budget and the tax rate impact will be reasonable under all circumstances as a finding of fact in the resolution tonight, in large part because it has not followed through on its assessment of what the budget impact would be per the June 25th, 2019 resolution for our achieving our climate action goals. The $12,650,000 financing for this project represents taking the town's debt capacity from its current 1/3 mark to 2/3. Both this and the annual payments on that debt of approximately $1 million within the climate action window before 2030, on top of the $6 million from town reserves to pay for the remainder of our portion of this project, may represent an unreasonable impact on the town's budget and tax rate if the town seeks to also follow through on its climate action goals. And I'd like to remind the council, we received information some time ago as part of our climate updates that if we were to pay for, in one estimate, 20% of the estimate of funding our climate plans, it would represent a 20% increase in our taxes. And obviously, that is more likely if we're going to be making use of our capacity, both in our general reserves and our tax, our budget burden. I mean, our debt burden. I'm sorry about my daughter; she's a little frustrated. So please consider this question in light of finding of fact E mentioned above in the local government commission resolution application you are considering tonight. Please also share the June 25th, 2019 climate budget resolution along with my comments and others that are part of tonight's public hearing to the local government commission, along with your application to the LGC if it is approved tonight. So those are my comments as a public citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. Next we go to Barbara and then Danny.
Thank you, Sammy, for your comments. And I raised my hand to move attachment A. I feel like we are at that point in the process for us to continue to move forward and stay on the timeline that we've been given. I'm very excited about the project. I continue to be excited. I appreciate everybody's hard work, getting us this far. This has been a long time coming, and we've been talking about it as a council since my first term, and probably, I'm sure before that. And it's just exciting because there's so many possibilities that will come with the 203 project. And so with that being said, Mayor, I would like to move attachment A for this item. If there's not, I see other council members have their hands up, but that's why I was raising my hand along with those brief comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. So before we continue with our discussion, if I could have a second motion. I see Danny raising his hand. So the motion has been moved by Barbara and seconded by Danny that we approve attachment A, which is the resolution approving the staff submitting this application to the local government commission. And we'll continue with our discussion. Danny, you're next, and then we'll move on to Susan.
Thanks, Mayor. And I have seconded this and intend to vote aye on it with the swell in public comment and Sammy's really admirable efforts to draw our attention to the climate emergency. And the circles were not squaring or the squares were not circling about the numbers that we really have to face as a town, and that's really important. And I really hear it very deeply when I think about climate. And I know that Sammy hears this, and I know that the people who are critical of this project from the standpoint of climate hear it. We're hearing a lot of reminders tonight that business as usual does not work. And if we are going to really tackle climate for real as a town, one of the things that we've been talking about in this town is a structural reimagination of the way we approach housing, transit, commerce, our shared spaces living together. We need to rebuild a polity that does not currently exist. We need public spaces where we can care for one another and build community in a way that does not currently exist, where we can share a common grammar, where we can educate one another, where we can lift each other up, and where we can all be safe. When we hear about the value of a public space where all people are safe and welcome and able to receive the services and instruction and resources that they need, I think, tonight of all nights, we can't discount the significance of those spaces. And those spaces are the cornerstone of our effort to really build the kind of coalition that we need to tackle this front for real. So those are kind of moral considerations, but then there are also practical considerations on the flip side of this issue. And I know Sammy's, sympathetic to this. Or Sammy, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I know that you have heard these and have heard them in good faith, but I do want to reiterate, structurally, practically, in order to achieve our climate goals, we have to rebuild our downtown. We have to replan our downtown. We have to redesign the way we relate to automobile traffic, and we have to increase the amount of time people spend in our downtown on foot. And we need to find a sustainable way to increase our revenue base to give us the resources that we want to pursue our goals. And in any discussion of this, structurally, strategically, budget-wise, we are all admitting that the town does not really have the resources to face the climate crisis that we do. And so when we look at the tools that we have at our hands to increase our resources, one of those is increasing our tax base. And as Mel Kramer has demonstrated on Twitter and some of her really admirable research work, projects like this are an economic boon to the downtown. They increase business revenue nearby. They increase spending per capita per hour. This is a really sustainable way to diversify our tax base. Not perhaps the single most sustainable way town could spend these dollars, but for the services we're going to spend that we're not currently offering, we are really making an aggressive inroad into a more sustainable economy, a more sustainable local plan, and a more sustainable local community where we are actually going to have a commons where we can share space and dialogue and be together in performance and learning and in work. We've heard from Mauricio about the opportunities for diversifying our workforce in our visible, viable downtown commercial district. That is not an opportunity we can let pass. And so I apologize for transgressing on your good graces with this long-winded remark. I know that we need to get to the vote, but I just feel so strongly that this project is not incompatible with our goals on climate. And while I'm tremendously grateful to Councilmember Slade for holding us accountable and holding our feet to the fire, the other conversations we're having tonight and the other conversations we're having across town really demonstrate the urgency of this, and I feel really proud of this project, and I'm eager for it.
Thank you, Danny. Next up is Susan, and then we'll go to Randy.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to, I appreciate all the comments that have been made, and Sammy, I appreciate your concerns in terms of the whole climate mitigation issue. I know it's the most passionate thing you care about, and I appreciate all the ways that you lift that up before council, meeting after meeting. I also do agree with Danny that I don't feel like this project is incompatible with our climate mitigation goals. In fact, I feel that it advances it in so many ways. As it has been talked about, having so many different programs and services all under one roof in one centralized location. And so folks who are in need of different programs and services, rather than driving from building to building with all of the car emissions that go along with that, they will now be able to get the services that they are looking for all under one roof. And also, I think it's equally important to note that the location is going to be so accessible by so many other means of transportation besides cars, through 3 bus routes, through Go Triangle, through the soon-to-be-built sidewalk on South Greensboro Street, as well as the Libby-Cotton Bikeway. So all of these things, the solar and green roof, make this, to me, it just adds to all of the great things about this building. And I do want to appreciate, Sammy, your leadership in helping to make this building so green. I also just want to quickly add that this idea for a Southern Branch library here in Carrboro first got planted, the seed got planted 34 years ago. And I appreciate the work of those who have been championing this cause tirelessly for over 3 decades now. And I also do want to mention this will end up being only the second new civic building in Carrboro that's been built in the last century. We of course have the fire station number 2 on Homestead Road that's been built several years ago, but this will be the only other new civic building in Carrboro in over a century. And I think all it takes is a tour of our civic space to realize what dire need we are, in how much, the dire need for this new space, not only more space, but nicer space. And I do feel like the most important investment we as a town make is an investment in our town employees. And this is one more step in making that important investment. So I'm really proud to be able to support Barbara's motion this evening.
Thank you, Susan. Randy? And then
do you want to go to Neris and then come back to me?
Well, let me hold on one second.
I'll wait.
Let me look back in the guest list here. Neris Levy, if you are in the waiting room, will you please use the raise hand feature? I'm not seeing Neris's name, although, oh, there she is. Okay. Wesley, will you pull Neris over? She just raised her hand. She's the TYWY user listed there at the end. There we go. Neris, welcome. And you may need to unmute yourself so that we can hear you.
Yeah. I don't want to crash because I'm really impressed with everybody's opinion. And but for the newcomers on the town council, I'm Neris Levy, representing the Friends of Carrboro Libraries. And I'm going to read something because it's specific, and then this just reinforces what everybody is saying. Tonight, what is on the table is the approval of the town's application to the Local Government Commission for that body's approval of the town's financing plan. for 203 South Greensboro Street. On March 15th, both the towns and Orange County governing bodies voted to approve the project's guaranteed minimum price. I was up in Hillsborough for 2 hours at the county commissioners meeting where they approved their $5 million. That vote is why we are here to approve the town's next step, refunding the 203 project. 203 South Greensboro is an investment in our community's social and financial infrastructure. It will foster community education and networking, improve job skills, and just for the record, the library will have a sizable seed library. That means seeds for gardening, planting, environmental awareness, and all that. I have worked on this project for over 30 years, and since my involvement in the early 1990s, many generations of our community, and particularly children, have been denied a proper library where they can access knowledge and open their minds. I worked in the Carrboro branch library running the art program for 25 years, where children were there till 5 to 8 doing their homework, and the library closed at 8. So the library is, for many, many children in our community, the only place where they can do their homework. It is now time to move forward so that Southwest Orange County, and particularly Carrboro, will not be credited with the distinction of being the largest town in North Carolina without a proper library. Thank you, and onward. And I want to thank the council for really being very, very open-minded. And we will have a wonderful library. And I really thank you all for supporting this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neris. Thank you for making the time to be with us tonight. Appreciate your comments as usual. And of course, your many, many years of working to move this forward.
Thank you.
Okay, Randy, you're up next.
Yes. Thank you all.
Uh-oh. Wesley, I think you may have inadvertently moved Randy out of the room instead of Neris.
My
Neris,
apologies, I did do that.
Carrboro Town Council, Neris. We'll wait until Randy comes back over.
That's okay. If ever I had to hand over space, I'd hand it to Neris. I want to thank everyone. Barbara, Danny, Susan, your comments are just elegant, just absolutely elegant. I want to underscore and really thank Melody for her comments, not only as someone who is, uses the library, but is pursuing a career in library science. Melody underscored something that we have yet to really talk about, especially now, which is creating space that's other than work, that's other than, space where we're doing something other than exploring and building and flourishing self. And I'm so glad she uplifted that. I do want to just say, I appreciate what Sammy is saying, and being a science educator, as well as a reading educator, that the work that we'll be able to do in this synergistic space that's going to be sustainable will be one of educating and opening the minds. And if anything is important to climate action, it's opening the minds of folks. While I agree we have a short window, I also know that within our community, this building, we're looking for this building to exemplify not only how we will grow to become more sustainable through solar and energy efficiency, but how we can model that. Finally, I just want to, I love the Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden's quote that a library is the key to freedom. And there's nothing that is more important than a community to create public space that sharing knowledge and aiming for higher self to be represented than a library. So thank you all, and I appreciate Barbara and Danny for moving this item.
Thank you, Randy. Glad we were able to pull you back in. Your video is off now, by the way, in case you want to you want us to see you again. There you go. All right. Welcome back. Okay, Sammy, you have your hand up again.
Yeah, now as a council member, just to respond to both my colleagues and people who have commented, you know, in any other time, I would totally agree with everything that's been said tonight. Unfortunately, we are at a time when scientists, some believe we've already crossed the point of no return. In other words, there's nothing humans can do that will have an impact on our trajectory of worsening climate. And some, fortunately, still believe that there's a slim chance. It's within that context that, you know, our money, our resources are so precious in terms of how to address the climate emergency. And, you know, a few years ago, I remember seeing a bumper sticker on the bike rack at Weaver Street saying, you know, Greenland is melting. And this was before, you know, people knew it was melting. It just sounded outrageous. How could Greenland be melting? It's as if like someone said, you know, the moon is raining. But we are actually living at the time when Greenland is melting, when 70 degrees in Antarctica simultaneous to 40 degrees above average in the Arctic, when sea levels are going to be rising faster than what scientists have predicted, when all their predictions are on a trajectory of increasing and worsening. You know, this is the context. We are in a climate emergency. So, you know, when this question, in terms of what is that, our question tonight, in terms of this application to the local government commission, is raised of like, given the town council's need and desire to the 203 project, the council believes that the effect on the town's budget and the tax rate impact will be reasonable under all circumstances. And our expressed intention of addressing our part of this climate emergency by reducing our emissions to 80% below 2010 levels by 2030, the window that scientists say we have, and that's a climate justice goal. You know, and we know in initial sketches from staff that, you know, that task is 100% of our budget over 10 years. And we have a resolution from 3 years ago asking staff to put together a budget plan so that we could have an informed discussion about our choice. Do we want to address the climate emergency like we've said we want to, or fund projects such as the one that we're considering tonight? And sadly, we haven't seen that climate budget to be able to have that informed discussion. So while it is true, this library and this project, and I don't want to say the library because it's not the library that the town of Carrboro is considering tonight. It's the town offices, it's the you know, the performance space, it's the associated $48,000 per space parking to those uses, the parts that are the towns that we are considering financing tonight. Do we have the capacity as a town to both address our climate emergency within the time frame that the science says we must do, and or pay for this project, which, by the way, represents half of the amount if we were just to pay 20% of what the initial estimates of addressing our climate emergency goals are? You know, this one project blows half of the money that is represented from a more you know, easy to digest, imaginable approach to how to finance our goal with 80% state and federal match, ideally. So for me, the answer is no, clearly no. And unfortunately, in large part, it's a no because we just don't have the information needed to know what the costs for addressing and meeting our climate action goals are. Earlier, a public comment was, you know, what is the tax impact on this project? Well, if we want to address, you know, our climate goal and pay for this library, staff estimated it would represent a 20% increase on our tax rate. So it's simply because we are considering, we've delayed, the analysis of what the climate budget would be, that we're able to say tonight, this will not have a tax impact. And instead, what we're doing is we're taking on the capacity for us to take on other projects through this project and putting more pressure on having to raise taxes to address the climate emergency that we're in. So those are the reasons why I have, from the very beginning, been reluctant to include all the things that the town's added onto the library and the associated costs, because we are in a climate emergency. So for those reasons, I cannot support approval of this resolution tonight.
Thank you for that, Sammy. And Sammy, I do want to say that how much, and others have said, I appreciate that you continuing to sort of return to this and be consistent in your opposition in the way that you are and expressing it the way you are. It's I appreciate the good faith you're showing in doing that by being consistent about it and holding yourself to that and holding us to that and hearing you. And I do hear you, so thank you. All right, I'm going to take one last look to make sure none of the folks who had previously signed up to speak haven't appeared before we move on. I don't believe so. All right, so we have a motion by Barbara and a second by somebody who can remind me, I'm sorry.
Danny.
By Danny, thank you. To approve the attachment, which is the resolution to submit the application to the Local Government Commission. One thing before we vote, I want to just, having seen some of the conversation happening in some corners of the community about the discussions we've all been having when we approved the budget for the project, as well as leading up into this meeting to forward our proposal to the Local Government Commission. There's been this thread, small thread, but a thread of insisting that there hasn't been enough public input or engagement on the 203 project. And, I just feel compelled to respond to that. And we don't even need to address the 30 some odd years of advocacy specifically for a library in the community, which we've heard about before. But just talking about the 203 project, discussions with the county about citing a project on this particular property began in 2016. The development agreement with the county was executed originally in 2017. The selection of the design firm for the project, who, by the way, I think have done a great job. Not that I'm an architecture critic, but I think it looks like a nice project. Was the design firm was selected in 2018. Conceptual designs for the public to consider for the project, for this building, were released and discussed at length by the council and the community in 2018. There were numerous workshops of the council, information sessions, drop-in sessions, public input sessions held in the community by staff for receiving public input on the designs for the building. From that point on, there were public hearings and other public meetings through every stage of the design for this project, leading all the way up to the 100% schematic design the council approved in 2020, I want to say. And since that time, additional hearings, including on the matters we've been discussing tonight, like the budget and the debt financing proposal. This is a project that has had years of public engagement and input behind it. And it's something we should be proud of because of that. Public projects like this take a long time. Civic projects, civic buildings take a while because they require so much attention from the community. And I just want to thank the staff of the town and the staff of the county for leading that process over these many years and for making sure that we have in fact had a thorough process over many years of engaging the public on this project, from everything to what the project will look like, what the architect is thinking about doing with colors and finishings, and all of the discussions we've had about the parking deck, which have been many as well, and we have varying opinions on. All of that comes down to the work that the staff has done to make sure that we held up our end of the bargain in making a decision about a big public project like this one. And I think that to suggest that anything other than that has happened in the planning and design of this project is really diminishing and devaluing the engagement and input that we've had from many, many community members over many, many years. And it's devaluing the work that our town staff and county staff have done to get us to this point. So I want to appreciate everyone who has been a part of this process over many years and for being along on this ride with us. And now we're going to vote. So there's a motion by Barbara, second by Danny, to approve the resolution in attachment A. And I will do a roll call vote and start with Barbara.
Aye.
Randy.
Aye.
Danny.
Aye.
Susan.
Aye.
Sammy.
Nay.
And I vote aye. So the matter passes 5-1, and appreciate everyone's comments. And Mr. Manager, I believe we're done with that item and we can move on to the next.
The next item on the agenda is an authorization for the town manager to execute a contract with Barnhill Contracting Company for the construction of 203 South Greensboro Street project. And Ben Schmadeke, our capital projects manager, will introduce this topic.
Great, and we'll bring Ben on over. Welcome, Ben.
Good evening, Mayor and council members.
Good to see you again.
Share my screen for a quick presentation. Okay. So the purpose of this item is to authorize the town manager to enter into an agreement with Barnhill Contracting Company for the construction of the 203 building. Just a little bit of history. In 2018, the decision was made by the town and county to use the construction manager at risk delivery method for the project. A couple of references here to meeting dates. And Barnhill was selected through a competitive qualifications-based process by a town and county evaluation committee. And so they've been working on the project since 2018. They've been involved since the schematic design phase, providing value management services, evaluating the constructability of the design, coordinating with utilities, and they managed all of the bidding to develop the guaranteed maximum price, which is the contract amount. And so this is the resolution included with the agenda item. I'm happy to answer questions. The execution of the contract is contingent on the local government commission approving the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks very much for the overview of this item. And I think you can probably stop sharing your screen at this point. Thank you. Council members, we have an attachment A resolution authorizing the manager to enter the agreement with Barnhill for their construction manager at risk services, has been described. Susan, and then we'll go to Danny.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ben, for your presentation this evening. I did get your information, Mr. Manager, about one of the questions I had asked, and I also wanted to just follow up on the greatest maximum price for Barnhill's construction project at Chapel Hill High School, and I understand that price the final cost actually exceeded the greatest maximum price. And I'm just trying to get a little bit more information about when we lock in the guaranteed maximum price. To what extent are we sure it's guaranteed? Or are there parts of this contract that say, should there be a hurricane, should there be a pandemic, well, the price can go even higher than that guaranteed maximum price. So I was hoping you could share with us just a little bit information about how confident we should be that the guaranteed maximum price is in fact the guaranteed maximum.
So I did get a written response from Barnhill late this afternoon about the Chapel Hill High School. We're working with a slightly different project team, but they did get some details. So that project, they developed the guaranteed maximum price at 90% construction documents, and that was to meet the construction schedule, which required construction to begin at the end of the school year. And so their guaranteed maximum price was not based on 100% design documents and or a set of bid documents. So with the 203 project, it was bid out. We have confirmed and accepted bids from contractors. And so the Chapel Hill High School project was more or less an estimate by Barnhill. And so they attribute kind of the incomplete design documents which led to some inefficiencies and delays in construction, which increased the cost. They also noted that they were not involved during design as they have been with the 203 project. So they were not able to consult on the design early on like we have here. And I'll share their full response with the council.
Thank you, Ben. And just one follow-up question to that. So would there be any circumstances that the guaranteed maximum price for the 203 project would be higher?
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned hurricanes and
pandemics.
All contracts do have force majeure clauses, which are those kind of extreme situations. And then there's always room for change orders if the design changes. So the intent with having Barnhill involved early on, they would be able to head off kind of any design change or unforeseen change that would be needed. So if the owner decided to make significant changes to the project during construction, that could lead to a change order. But I think, with having Barnhill involved early on, which is the intent of the CMAR process, I think we've done all we can to kind of head off that risk.
Thank you, Ben. That's really helpful.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate that response. It's really helpful to hear a little bit more information this time than we were able to get on the spot last time. So thanks. All right. I'm not seeing any other hands up. I know Danny had one earlier, but it's gone down.
Well, I move to approve the resolution.
Okay. Thank you, Danny. Is there a second? By Susan. So it's been moved by Danny, seconded by Susan, that we approve the resolution in attachment A, which authorizes the manager to enter the agreement with Barnhill. Any further discussion? Okay, Sammy?
Just very briefly, because this relates to the previous item too, just want to further share, we've been very intentional in our climate action pursuit in the sense of having climate action plans and the intention of matching a budget that along with the impact of projects. so that we could achieve our goals. And many have mentioned this project itself, to the degree that it helps with the urban form, facilitates towards climate action. But one of the things that we're ignoring is the reality that this project does not register anywhere on our plans or in our ideas of what the budgeting is in terms of what to do to reach our climate goals. The other aspect is, the urban form is not going to change within the time frame that science says we have to take action in. So while I agree, like 20 years from now, it'd be great if we have some changes to the urban form, but the first 10 years are the ones that we need to get through first. And so again, to the extent that these are resources that we are not dedicating to guaranteeing these next 10 years, this project, for me, is a misallocation of resources per our climate action goals and plan.
Thank you, Sammy. All right. Seeing no further comment, we'll take a roll call vote, and I've already forgotten who the mover and seconder were, but I'm sure Wesley has it noted down, and so I'll take a roll call vote. Barbara.
Aye.
Randy.
Aye, and it was moved by Danny and second by Susan.
Danny.
Aye.
Susan.
Aye.
Sammy.
Nay.
And I vote aye. The matter passes 5-1. Mr. Manager.
Okay, the next item is the authorization for the town manager to execute an amendment to the 203 project development agreement. This is an amendment to the existing development agreement we have with Orange County for the 203 project, and Ben will introduce this item as well.
All right. Ben, you're on.
Okay, and so a few more slides here, but the purpose of this item is to provide the town council with an opportunity to authorize the town manager to execute the amendment to the existing development agreement and with Orange County. So the original agreement is from 2017, and it was amended in 2020 after the Arts Center dropped out and the Skills Development Center was added in. And so the intent of the second amendment is to update the agreement with the approved GMP and the final cost share allocation. So this is the attachment C to the amendment, which you all have seen before. It allocates the space of the building, and it breaks down the cost per square foot. And so the end result is the proportionment down here: 55.48% Orange County, 44.52% town of Carrboro. And those are the percentages that were applied to all of the budgets that you saw on March 15th. And so here's the guaranteed maximum price document, the total GMP down at the bottom, and here this is the amendment. So again, if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Ben. So this action would amend the development agreement with the county to update the details in that document to reflect most recent decisions about design and budget. I think I've summarized that pretty accurately. Okay, you can go ahead and unshare your screen, please. Thanks. And if there's any questions, Danny, go ahead.
Move to approve the resolution.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion? By Randy. So I'm going to remember it this time. Moved by Danny, seconded by Randy to approve the resolution amending the development agreement. And we'll go to Susan and then to Sammy.
Thank you, Mayor. And Ben, I was wondering if we could go back to the slide that said partner cost allocation on it.
Sure.
Great. I have two kind of quick questions here. One is, I'm looking at the parking, and something I've been a little bit confused about is some of this parking is, of course, paid for by the county. Some of it's paid for by the town. Let's say we have a visitor to the 203, and let's say they're going to visit the library. Will these parking spaces be marked? Which ones are, parking spaces for the library as opposed to parking spaces for other purposes that people are visiting the 203? That also begs the question for town of Carrboro, where those spaces be marked specifically for, I assume those are for the town of Carrboro employees right now, unless that changes. But I'm curious if there's some way of designating these parking spaces based on who they've been paid for.
The development agreement does include designated parking. There are not plans to mark them right now, but I'm assuming that will come after. Probably put up signs.
Great. And Mr. Manager, I had one question about the town of Carrboro, the 42 spaces there. I know there's been discussion in the past if those will be designated for employees versus opening those up to the public and looking for some nearby spaces that we could lease for employees. And I was just curious if you have any more updates in terms of those 42 town of Carrboro spaces.
Yes, staff met this week to look at the parking study one more time before we bring it to council, which is planned for early May. And so we had conversations around downtown parking with employees. And so that's part of the conversation as well, to make sure we understand not only the town's employee parking, but also other employees who are parking in downtown. And we are going back to review those numbers. And we should have that done the next week or so, just make sure we understand how employee parking fits into the equation of overall parking in our downtown. So that'll come forward when we bring the parking study.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Susan. Next up is Sammy.
Yeah, I got something else to speak to, but Susan raised some good points that are aligned with sentiments I've shared throughout this process, and I'm glad to hear the manager, and that's part of our next presentation on the parking plan or parking study that's being done on how to pay for that parking and share it. There's most of the parking in town is privately held, and so there's a challenge of how to open that up. But it does, make a lot of sense for us to not have this be employee parking tied up from 9 to 5. And along with the question Susan prompted, how to have the conversation with the county on how to treat this parking deck as a whole, as for the public at large, or at least experiment doing that and see if it won't, go against patronage of the library, which is primary and priority. So I look forward to that conversation with the county. Employee parking, we don't need to do any more leases. We did a lease where the Hilton's supposed to go, and every time I visited that lot, it's been empty. Employees should be parking there already. Not to mention 300 East Main levels of the parking deck. The first time I've seen it full was the night Duke played Carolina. I've never seen those spaces filled. So there's a lot of already surplus parking that we have control over that we need to recognize and not increase our leasing for any further. Lastly, I'm blanking on what exactly I was going to say, but I think it had to do with this again going against our climate goals and plan, and for that reason, I will not be supporting it tonight. Yeah, so that's basically it. Nothing new.
Great. Thank you, Sammy. Okay, not seeing any other comments. There's a motion by Danny and a second by Randy to approve the resolution, which would amend the development agreement with Orange County. And I will take a roll call vote. Barbara?
Aye.
Randy,
Aye.
Danny,
Aye.
Susan,
Aye.
Sammy,
Nay.
and I vote aye. The matter passes 5-1. All right, Mr. Manager, back to you. And Ben, thank you very much again for guiding us through this latest step. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next item is the countywide manufactured homes action plan. The purpose of this item is for the town council to consider endorsing the countywide manufactured homes action plan. And Rebecca Buzzard and Anne Marie Vonneman with our Housing and Community Services Department will present this item.
Great. We'll bring Rebecca and Anne Marie over. And I just have a couple of quick opening comments before they start, Richard, if that's okay. Hopefully we didn't lose Rebecca and Anne Marie.
Mayor, she is on there, but I will not promote over. There we go.
There's Rebecca. I'm not sure which user Anne Marie is. Anne Marie, if you're in the waiting room, can you raise your hand, please? There we go. Do you see her there, Wesley? Okay.
Yes, she's on her way.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca and Anne Marie, for being here. I just wanted to start out before y'all give your presentation, and I am really excited about you all talking about this because I know that you've put a lot of work into it. Just council members, to sort of a process note here. The same plan is being presented, not tonight, but soon, to the Chapel Hill Town Council, to the Hillsborough Town Board, and eventually to the Orange County Commissioners. I think the county commissioners they're going to kind of wait until the towns have had the presentation and sort of weigh in on it. And I just want you all to sort of understand that we're in this multi-party thing happening here, right? With this one document we're all looking at. And this is our opportunity tonight to offer comments on that document, decide whether we want to endorse the document or not. Our colleagues in Chapel Hill may have their own thoughts about the document and so forth. And so if anything changes about it, it will of course have to come back to us. I think the goal initially is, can we all agree to this and endorse this one document? But there is, as we know, there's always the possibility that there will be tweaks to it and so on. So just want you to be aware of and open to that. And as we hear the presentation from Rebecca and Anne Marie tonight, be thinking about this is an opportunity to share your comments about it and maybe even endorse the document tonight. But if we don't get to that point, it's not the end of the world, because it's possible, maybe even likely, that some of our other governing boards in the county will have their own tweaks to suggest. So with that, I think I stated all that correctly, but we'll move on to Rebecca and Anne Marie to give us the real meat here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yep, that is my understanding, Mayor Stiles. And I do have a presentation, if it's okay if I do that, and then Anne Marie and I will both be here to answer questions. Okay, so tonight I have a presentation on the countywide manufactured homes action plan. And I will start by providing you with some background, share an overview of the countywide action plan, and then talk about next steps. As the mayor just mentioned, I did want to note that while I will bring up a couple of Carrboro specific items, the majority of this presentation and the information provided in the agenda packet will be consistent across the 4 jurisdictions. So as a little bit of background, in May of last year, in the context of a particular threat to a Chapel Hill park, staff reached out to the owners and managers of the 4 Carrboro communities, 2 of which are within the town limits and 2 in the joint planning area. And we provided you all with information about each of those communities. At that time, none of our parks were under direct threat of redevelopment or resident displacement. But with your support, we began collaborating with Chapel Hill, Hillsborough, and Orange County on a coordinated plan to prepare for the future possibility of threats to manufactured home communities. So there's been a longstanding acknowledgement that this issue couldn't be addressed by the towns alone, and that the solutions to the challenges facing manufactured home communities are not unique to one jurisdiction and should be addressed collaboratively, working with our local partners. So to that end, after we presented to Council last May and received your feedback, we've been working with those partners to develop this plan, which is comprehensive and it's countywide to really address the 100 manufactured home communities in Orange County. And this map shows the communities in Orange County, and the Carrboro parks are the 2 within our jurisdiction are down here, and the 2 within our joint planning area are over here. So to dig into the plan a bit, in terms of collaboration, the Local Government Affordable Housing Collaborative, which includes an elected official from each of the jurisdictions. For Carrboro, our representative is Mayor Pro Tem Romaine. They provided guidance and helped develop the plan. They discussed and revised it at several of their monthly meetings. Additionally, the Affordable Housing Advisory Boards from Chapel Hill, Carrboro, and the county, the Orange County Affordable Housing Coalition, and the Manufactured Home Subcommittee of that coalition reviewed and provided input on the draft action plan. Empowerment also has been a major player in this. They assisted with outreach to manufactured home residents in Chapel Hill, and they're currently involved with resident engagement in Carrboro in one park that I'm going to mention later. The action plan includes 4 guiding principles, which are listed here. 1, engagement findings are used as a foundation for the strategies. It grounds the strategies we identify for action in the extensive community engagement that was carried out by Chapel Hill, Family Success Alliance, Empowerment, and other partners, which is in keeping with our racial equity plan and empowering the community voices. The number 2, include a variety of strategies to fully address the different issues. So the action plan acknowledges that there's no one solution that will address the complex issues facing manufactured home communities, and we need to use a variety of strategies. 3, manufactured housing is an important source of naturally occurring affordable housing, and the action plan recognizes that this type of housing provides homes to many residents who face barriers to other forms of housing in our community. And then 4, the plan is a living document that will be updated and adapted over time. Using these 4 guiding principles that I just reviewed, the plan contains 3 main objectives. The first is to preserve manufactured home communities, both preserving the communities themselves and improving or maintaining the quality of the communities. This is essentially about preserving affordable housing in our community, and it's in line with the draft comprehensive plan, the town's affordable housing goals and strategies, the town's racial equity and climate action work. When preservation isn't possible, the plan calls for strategies to help minimize displacement of residents. And then finally, if and when displacement occurs, the plan lays out how to handle that and what should be a part of a relocation assistance package for residents. For ease of understanding, we pulled out 1 page of the strategy section. So I'm going to highlight some of the key structural pieces of the plan. this example is from the preservation objective. For each of the 3 strategic objectives, the plan outlines several strategies in the first column, action steps in the next column, and then it identifies the likely key implementation partners, including the lead entities, and then provides a high-level sense of both the financial and staffing resource needs. The plan also indicates with this yellowy orange star whether the strategy would need policy or funding approvals from the town council before the full implementation. And again, this is being brought forth as a regional document for endorsement, so we tried not to make it particularly specific to any one jurisdiction. The action plan also covers the eligible resources to assist with implementation, including dedicated resources and potential resources. For dedicated resources, there is currently a little over $1 million in county funding through their land banking fund and their displacement mitigation assistance program. And there are other potential resources, including the town's affordable housing sources, but we do know that there are a lot of competing priorities for this local affordable housing funding. The plan also identifies the likely partners that will be needed to assist it with implementation, including many community organizations, departments within the local governments, state organizations like the North Carolina Finance Agency, and the park owners and managers. So there are several key next steps. One, we plan to continue to work with our partners to engage residents, and this will assist with the prioritization of strategies and will include the sharing of resources. We'll continue the work that's already underway, including many strategies we've been pursuing through our affordable housing goals and strategies and those that are proposed in Carrboro Connects, and work to build out the early warning system that is currently under development. And then we'll also pursue strategies that are not yet underway. So lastly, this is Carrboro specific. So I did want to mention that we have one Carrboro manufactured home community property owner who has a conditional use permit for a development. And we have been actively working with this owner in conjunction with multiple nonprofits, including Carolina Common Enterprise, which is a resident-owned community's national affiliate, and Habitat for Humanity, to discuss ways to preserve and or potentially create or expand affordable housing on the site. And right now we are working with Carolina Common Enterprise and Empowerment on a resident survey for that community. In line with that, we've also had conversations with Family Success Alliance and OWASA about other Carrboro manufactured home communities, their needs and possible funding resources. And this local information is really to say that staff anticipate coming to the council to implement steps in the plan in the near future. So the mayor already mentioned this, but Chapel Hill will review the plan tomorrow night. Hillsborough will be sharing it next week, and Orange County had it on their agenda for tonight, but we do understand the item will be delayed until after the towns have the opportunity to review the plan. And now I will turn it over to you for questions and comments.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Really great presentation, taking us through all the main points. Let's go ahead and turn it over to council members with questions. And first up is Barbara.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Rebecca, for your report with the little chart, the little man, the little dollar signs. I like all that. Thank you so much. It was clear, and I was able to just understand all of it. I think you answered one of my questions. Well, maybe not. But I guess in looking at the plan, I'm looking at kind of some low-hanging fruit items, because I remember reading, was it there was only like a 10% vacancy rate? Is that right? 10% vacancy rate? I saw it somewhere. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But anyway, so when I think about that, I think about our community members staying in their mobile homes long-term. And I also think about the infrastructure that supports them being able to stay in said mobile home. And so I just kind of look at those items, which you have listed here as under strategic objective 1 to preserve the communities, work with manufactured homeowners to improve park quality and rehab and repair homes and mobile home parks, which I think is like, that kind of somewhat low hanging fruit, and potentially maybe some work has been done there already. So since this is a collaborative effort, I think it looks really good. Since it's a collaborative effort with us, Hillsborough, Chapel Hill, and the county, and so, we all look it over and we adopt the plan, whatever. And so something happens in Carrboro, maybe a Rocky Brook, just throwing that out there. So how would that kind of move along? Like, how would it move along, with the process if somebody was wanting to buy it, and just displace the residents and, it just gets kind of crazy, sort of like it did in Chapel Hill. And so with this collaborative effort, are we able to move ourselves as a town? Do we move in conjunction, with the county? Is it all 4 of us? Like, I'm just trying to figure out how all that would work. And that would be helpful to me. Rebecca, if you could let us know that.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Fushi. I think that's a really good question. Our goal with having all the elected jurisdictions endorse this plan was that we would all be on the same page and thus able to act more quickly, and that the resources, both financial and staff-wise, would be already indicated so that we knew what was available and the steps to take. So the goal of this is really to make that so that it's a more streamlined process. I will say that each situation will require, a different set of strategies. That's why we have so many mapped out here. So, but I think it will make the process go more smoothly. And I do. So if it's in terms of a repair, so that's the first question. That would go through the Preservation Coalition, but through this plan, ideally we'd all be on the same page in terms of eligible funding, for example. Or if it was a purchase of a park, we would all know what the financial resources are available and what steps we're going to take. But that is something that needs to be further developed as, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3 for each of these identified strategies.
Yeah, and so that brings me to our AHAC. And so does their role change in the process, or does it pretty much stay the same as far as them being able to maybe even look at an application for a mobile home repair or rehab, and them getting a chance to weigh in or make a recommendation that maybe would go then, to the group you're just talking about, the Preservation Coalition, or are they just kind of pulled out of it, or am I adding too much in already?
They would absolutely be involved if there is a request for the Affordable Housing Special Revenue Fund. So they're built into the process for the town of Carrboro funding. So the starred items are ones that we would have to bring back to council. So those are the ones that would need additional input from you all, from the AHAC, from our elected officials. And then the ones that aren't starred, we do anticipate being able to move forward with without necessarily coming back for additional guidance, so that we can act, especially with the repairs, rapidly. So, there was an incident with Rocky Brook where a light pole fell on a roof, and we needed to act quickly. And so for situations like that, we're able to move. For situations where you need a complete renovation, you need weatherization, some of the things, that Sammy has been talking about, they would cost more money, and they would need to go through that process with approval through those bodies.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Barbara. We'll go to Susan next. And Susan, I want to appreciate that Rebecca mentioned that you are the council's rep on the local government affordable housing collaborative. And so I appreciate the input you've had in that process and look forward to any insights you might have into how this work has come about.
Yeah, thank you. First, I wanted to thank you, Rebecca, for your really clear presentation, and then I wanted to echo what Mayor says. It's been such a pleasure for me to get to work on the collaborative with you and to work on this action plan with you. I just wanted to begin by saying that it's these 2,000 households living in these 100 manufactured home communities in Orange County are to me, they're a really, really special group of people. And some of this comes from the Family Success Alliance surveys. Some of this comes through being a part of the collaborative and things that I've learned. But first, we know that this manufactured housing is a really important source of the naturally occurring affordable housing, maybe the best source of all in the county. We know that these communities tend to be very tight-knit. And lots of the residents are sharing different kinds of services, whether it be childcare or transportation or car repairs. We know that the population, they tend to be very diverse and they tend to be especially vulnerable. So according to the Family Success Alliance survey, almost all of the households were living below 40% of AMI. 2 out of 5 families were living below 20% of AMI. And then there's another characteristic that makes these folks especially vulnerable, and that is that very often they own their home, but they don't own the land beneath their home. And so if a developer should come along and they need to find another place to go, either the choices could be, first, there are no other places to be found in manufactured home communities, or their home itself is old and it's no longer mobile, so they can't pick it up and move, or the relocation costs are so expensive. It could be $5,000, $10,000 and they don't have the money to relocate their manufactured home. So I mention all of this because I wanted to make just a couple of suggestions in terms of the action plan, knowing that this is just a really, really special group of people, I think, that we're talking about. The first recommendation would be that there was mention of many of the residents in these manufactured home communities are carpenters and electricians and construction workers. And it appears that many of them were providing these types of services for free to their neighbors. And so one recommendation I have is that we actually use some of our funding to pay for those residents with these skills to provide the services to other residents, to their neighbors, rather than they're doing that for pro bono. I think it's a win. It's certainly a win for those providing the services, as well as a win for the community. Another thing I wanted to mention was I think that this idea of these resident-owned communities is really the ultimate solution in all of this. The residents who live in these communities, they want to stay there. They don't want to relocate. They don't want to be moved into apartments. And so the more we can look for ways that they can stay but live without the fear of being forced to relocate, I think is the ultimate solution. The more they can feel vested in their home is really what we want to be going after. So the more we can be looking for ways to support these resident-owned communities, I think is the way to go. And finally, I just wanted to prioritize the funding. So I know that the Orange County Affordable Housing Coalition has brought before us a proposal that each jurisdiction dedicate a minimum of 2 cents of our property tax rate in the fiscal year 22-23 budget for funding affordable housing. So for Carrboro, this additional 0.5% on top of the 1.5% we're currently providing would add an additional $112,000 for affordable housing. So I'm not necessarily saying to raise the tax rate an additional 0.5%, but what I am suggesting is that Carrboro perhaps find money elsewhere in the budget that we can shift over to these manufactured home communities, just to lift this up and to really prioritize it, given what a special population this is. I would encourage the other jurisdictions to be doing the same, that if we are truly collaborative about this, we are all prioritizing this in the same way. And in this way, we could get some of these repairs done on the manufactured homes. As Sammy has been urging, we could help retrofit these homes so they're more energy efficient. We could help some of the residents make these down payments on resident-owned communities, and also fund some improvements to the grounds at the manufactured home communities. So these are just a few ideas I've had. And again, Rebecca, I just want to really thank you for all of your leadership on this. And again, it's just been really great getting to work with you on the collaborative. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. We'll go to Randy next.
Yeah, thank you so much, Barbara and Susan, for raising the questions and the suggestions that you've made. Susan, thank you for representing us, and Rebecca, thank you for you and Anne Marie and all the work that you're doing. I'm very appreciative. I have a question. Oh, I also had one other thank you, and that was to the Family Success Alliance and to the folks who were doing the survey. Thank you, Mariella, and your team for the survey work. I really appreciated reading through that. My question, Rebecca, is about the what happens when preservation is not possible, when we know that the landowners, if not immediately, but sometime in the short range future or even 10 years out, they're going to be looking to monetize their land. And this really nags at me, because I know folks who've been in this situation, who lived in Pine Grove, and it became unsustainable, and they ended up having to move. And I worry that folks have a false sense of security in that the property, since they don't own the property, they own their manufactured home, that they are investing in with hopes of staying there long term. And the reason why I worry about land that is held in private hands, that's not owned by the county for these manufactured homes, is it also affects whether or not intergenerationally these homes can be passed from generation to generation. And I don't know if, I guess I want to know, Rebecca, is that something that's being talked about in terms of longitudinally? I get that in the short term, whether it be 5 years or 10 years, or like in the case of the manufactured homes on Martin Luther King, I think it was something like 12 to 18 years. But what happens after that? We're not helping folks create homes that not only are sustainable, but that they can pass to other members in the family, and or sell to other members within the community. So has that been discussed or addressed at all?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Haven O'Donnell. So specifically with Pine Grove, that is certainly being talked about, because we know that the owner does have this conditional use permit and is interested in redevelopment. So for that project, we are talking about long-term affordability. And I did mention two partners, Carolina Common Enterprise, who does a resident-owned community model, and Habitat. So both would do just what you're saying, make sure that there's long-term affordability through a nonprofit partner for that particular park. Because they are owned by private entities, our toolkit, when we don't have an owner who is looking to preserve that affordability, is smaller. So the tools that we've really looked at for those are included in the second two objectives, which is to minimize displacement. So if there is going to be redevelopment, to try to either find another site for the residents or to incorporate that into the development somehow. And then, if that really can't happen, to create this robust relocation assistance package, to look for other sites. And perhaps those other sites are county or town-owned land, so really looking at the other alternatives to ensure resiliency and long-term affordability.
Yeah, I think the component I'm looking for is that if folks own their manufactured home, that they can create intergenerational wealth. I'm very concerned that they, upon displacement, relocation, just because they don't own the turf underneath, I want to ensure that we're not creating, this limitation. We're not setting limitations because there are unintended consequences. Thank you for being mindful of that.
Thanks, Randy. Thank you, Rebecca. And next we'll go to Sammy.
Yeah, I appreciate all the comments so far. Susan, thanks for being our liaison and sharing some of your more in-depth perspectives in those conversations. That's really valuable. And Rebecca, I just also wanted to thank you in the comprehensive plan. I saw your fingerprints on a lot of those comments that I very much resonate with. Thank you so much. And I just looking at the document, one comment I would like to make is on page 4, let's see, sorry. I think it was on 1E. It says rehab and repair homes and manufactured home parks. And, it seems like there's enough space in there to include weatherize also, especially since that is part of the work that Orange County Home Preservation does. And just mentioning it raises it as one of the goals, especially in light of the fact that manufactured homes are very leaky. And, one of the ways in which they're very expensive is in their utilities and the cost of electricity or natural gas. I used to work with a nonprofit and met, homes that would be paying up to $600 a month on their electricity. And so if we're talking about affordability of manufactured homes, I mean, we most of the time think that they're automatically affordable. But if you look at the actual utility costs, many times they're not. And obviously, this aligns with our other goals of, one, first, affordability in the case of what the main lens is for this, but two, our climate action goals, obviously. So I would appreciate it if that were included. Then also, similarly on page 10, when we talk about the eligible funding sources, when we talk about weatherizing homes, the state weatherization assistance program is the entity that funds Dixon. I forget his name. Bob Dick. What's his name? The community action.
Doug Dixon.
Doug Dixon's agency, and maybe that should be acknowledged in that slide too. And then I'd just like to have a better sense of what is the opportunity in terms of weatherizing homes in Orange County. What is the capacity of the weatherization assistance program to weatherize those homes, and what is the gap of the state funds for that program that we might want to fill with local funds to achieve weatherizing of those homes? So if you could share that with the group and maybe even include it in a more integrated way in this document so that we're all on the same page with our other partners, I think we'd go a long way in achieving these synergistic goals. Thank you.
Councilmember Slade, I'd just like to call out Anne Marie here. She has been working really hard to determine the cost to weatherize all low-income households in Carrboro, and she has been working with the Preservation Coalition really closely on this very issue. So I think she has a lot of great information, and I don't know if you want to say anything, Anne Marie, but she really has been analyzing this issue and seeing what we can do to make a difference in terms of climate action and weatherization.
Great. Thank you so much for your work, Anna Marie.
All right. Thanks, Sammy. Those are really great suggestions. I appreciate that very much. And next, we're going to go to Susan.
Thank you. Just one really quick comment. I just wanted to follow up on something that Randy had said. Randy, I wanted you to know one of the roles of the collaborative, one of the joys of the collaborative is we get to award home funds. And we just awarded $150,000 to a nonprofit called Rebuilding Together of the Triangle to purchase 2 new manufactured homes. And this will replace 2 homes that were in such disrepair that it made no sense to try to fix them. But what was interesting with this is that it's not just the homes, it allows these folks to also purchase the land. And so the land provides the sense of the security that they won't be so much at the mercy of a developer, but also, Randy, it provides for that, that transfer of generational wealth. So I wanted you to know that that was very much in mind with the awarding of these funds.
Thanks for that, Susan. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands up for this item. I guess, maybe Rebecca and, let me actually just saw Barbara, so let's go back to Barbara. And Barbara, you're on mute.
I was saying, just as you said that, I just thought about something that I was thinking about. That this does have to go to the county and town of Chapel Hill and Hillsborough. And it is a living document that can be amended or added to, deleted, or whatever, depending on circumstances. So, I mean, even if we say tonight, hey, we like it just like it is, and then, maybe we want to come back and change something, just having the opportunity to be able to review it again and do that. Am I understanding that correctly?
I saw Rebecca's head nod, so I think so.
Yes, thank you, Rebecca.
And Barbara, thanks for that comment. It kind of connects to a question I was going to ask, and maybe seek some guidance from Rebecca and or Richard about next steps. I know one possibility that was anticipated for us tonight as council was to consider endorsing the document, which I think the other bodies are also being asked to do. But inevitably, of course, there are going to be some of these other comments, and I think most importantly, some very specific suggestions about things that could be added or tweaked in the document. So I guess I'd like to hear from you, Rebecca, what would be most helpful from the council tonight, given that we know Chapel Hill will be here tomorrow night, Hillsborough later, and then the county. What would be the best approach for us to take? Do we endorse with comments? Do we just offer you comments and see what the other boards did and get it back eventually in a more updated form? What makes sense for you?
Well, I will tell you that I've been told that Hillsborough was planning on putting this on their consent agenda. I'm not sure if that's still the case considering the conversation between the county and Chapel Hill today, but yes, in terms of an endorsement does help us, especially with these comments, help us have your support in this plan so that, I mentioned a couple of communities that were looking to implement some of these strategies. So at least that would let staff know that we have your support in using these strategies. And then we could bring it back to you at a later date if Chapel Hill makes any substantive changes. That would be my recommendation. But of course, it's up to you.
That's really, really helpful. I think what I have heard from folks tonight is what I have not heard from folks tonight on the council is any concern about any of the particular strategies proposed in the plan. And so I think it would make sense for us to endorse the plan as it is and ask that staff take the comments that we've shared, including some of these specific suggestions you heard from council members about what might be incorporated into the plan once we hear from the other partners. But I think that, I agree it would be nice for us to endorse that we support everything else we've seen in the plan, in addition to the suggestions you've heard, if I'm hearing you correctly, Rebecca. Let's go to Randy and then Danny. And actually, wait, Rebecca, you raised your hand, so do you want to respond to that?
Well, I just wanted to say one quick thing, which is the town manager did ask me before this agenda item, the language says endorse, not adopt. So I think the goal was to show support for it, not necessarily adopt the specific, if that makes sense.
That's a great point. Thank you so much. Great. Okay, Randy, and then we'll go to Danny after that.
Great. Thank you for that clarification, Rebecca. Okay, I read through the agenda packet. I read through all the materials, but I did not see what was in the slides. Will the slides be shared with us, or the larger plan? Because what we had was it looked like the executive summary, and we had the survey. The survey was excellent, but the survey was the survey, not the plan. So was I missing something, or where is the full scope of the plan for us to look at? I'm kind of reluctant. I could support the idea. I don't know if I could endorse the plan because I've only seen it like an executive summary of the plan. Can you elaborate on this a little bit for me?
Yeah, I thought that what we were looking at was the plan. It's essentially a listing of strategies to be taken and considered in approaching these scenarios that may arise with manufactured home communities. But Rebecca, maybe you can correct me.
Yes. So attachment B, the countywide coordinated manufactured homes action plan, is the plan that we've been working on and that has been reviewed by the collaborative and the advisory boards and all of that. And then my slides are a summary of that plan. So I'm happy to share the slides, but the goal was for that attachment B to be the plan that you would be endorsing.
Yeah, I think what I would do because I'd really like to look over the slides. Actually, if you're saying the slides are a summary, actually, I found there was more depth to some of the things in the slides than on this one, review sheet. I think the background was more informative than most of the other parts. But, so I would, rather than endorse, I would say, I support this in concept where it is right now, because there's a lot of other conversation that has to happen with the other jurisdictions and the county commissioners. It's not that I hesitate on the concept at all. I don't, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, or I don't know if we should get ahead of ourselves to say we fully endorse something until we see the breadth of the conversation. But so thank you.
Okay, thanks, Randy. I think maybe one thing I'm struggling is the difference between endorse and support. I mean, I think the idea is that we're trying to indicate that we are supporting that the plan that has been put forward in attachment B, which I think is ready for endorsement, frankly. But let's hear from other council members. Go to Danny and then Sammy.
I move that we adopt the resolution endorsing this plan, which I think is appropriately open in some circumstances where we're going to have to interface with other governments. And I think that there are some questions to be answered there. But I think there's a really sound approach here with some specific tactics that are urgent and need to get started. And so I move that we accept or approve and endorse.
And I'll second with a friendly amendment. it's true that the first therefore is about endorsement, but the second one authorizes the town manager to make adjustments to the county-wide manufactured homes action plan as described in the April 5th, 2022 meeting materials. And what I'd like to add is after materials say, comma, town council input during the same meeting, comma, and then continue, and as needed as the town moves into implementation. If that is okay with you, Danny, as a friendly amendment.
So first of all, Danny, as the mover, do you accept that amendment to the motion?
Yes.
Okay. And Rebecca, do you understand what Sammy has suggested as an amendment to the resolution? Great. Okay. And I think, I do want to come back to what Randy was raising as a just sort of wanting to make sure that the understanding is that we are saying to staff, we think this is a good plan and there will be further conversation, right? And I think that is also important, and I appreciate you raising that, Randy. Okay, it's been moved by Danny and seconded by Sammy that we approve attachment A, which is the resolution endorsing the plan that Rebecca has presented tonight, with that one change that Sammy mentioned in the final clause of the resolution. Is there any further discussion? All right, I'll take a roll call vote and start with Barbara.
Aye.
And then Randy.
Aye, and thank you, Sammy, for adding that language.
Danny.
Aye.
Susan.
Aye.
Sammy.
Aye.
I vote aye. The matter passes unanimously with lots of great questions from council members. Appreciate that. And Rebecca and Anne Marie, amazing as usual. Thanks for all your work on this and for your presentation tonight.
Thank you all.
All right. I believe that completes the substantive matters on our agenda tonight, Mr. Manager. I wanted to just raise one comment. It looks like a contractor with the railroad has decided to do some construction all of a sudden downtown and in some other places. And I noticed that the town tried to get out some notification about this quickly, but I'm not sure we were anticipating having Main Street completely shut down and Estes Drive completely shut down for 2 days. And I'm wondering what do we need to do to communicate to the railroad that is not okay for that to have happened in the way that it happened.
Wasn't there, I thought I saw some signage for Estes, that was gonna occur. Yeah, I was met with it this morning and I was like, okay, well, where I'm going. So I had to figure out, but I thought I saw some signage for Estes, Mayor. I'm not sure about Main Street.
I guess I just didn't get the impression from any reports that I saw, including from the town, that this was something we saw coming. So maybe, Richard, I don't know if you know more about this, but I think there needs to be some communication happening here that didn't happen.
Yes, we're in communication with the railroad to understand how the decision got made and also to talk about future notification of such work. But they have delayed, I think, the remaining work until April 19th, I believe. So there will be a pause, but we'll be in touch with them to continue the conversation.
Okay. So maybe we can, knowing that date a little bit more ahead of time, do some prep work for people's awareness. It's frustrating, especially because I know folks downtown are already dealing with a lot of disruption, and, with the OWASA project and everything. So it just kind of adds on to that. So I appreciate you doing what you can to express some sense of frustration and also forward movement on that issue.
And
okay.
It goes all the way up to where Millhouse Road goes into up to 86.
Basically from downtown Carrboro to University Station. It's really.
That's right.
Okay, we are through with the agenda, but I see Barbara's hand and we'll call on Barbara.
Our last Zoom meeting.
That's right. We hope. Yes, that's right.
Is that correct? Is that correct? We were back in person next Tuesday night, Mayor?
Back in person next Tuesday, Town Hall, 7 o'clock. I will be in touch with you all about some logistics matters between now and then, just so Wesley and the manager and I can sort of help get things ready to go for us all. But yes, we are scheduled to be back in person on April 12th. I know that the staff's been working really hard to not only get ready for us, but to return themselves to in-person work and really get town hall back into some sort of full operation, which I know has been a big chore. So appreciate Richard and the staff. This is a big shift, right? It's been over 2 years, and so I think have some patience and grace with one another as we move into this new mode. What it was going to feel like a new mode for some of us, I think. So, Sammy.
Yeah, I may have missed updates on COVID, especially in light of our reconvening. But if Damon, if you're still having those MAC meetings, or if Mr. Manager, you speak with the chief, if he could share kind of what the update is in terms of BA2's proportion of the hospital's measures and of that variant.
Thanks for asking that, Sammy. We are meeting with the full group this Friday for our next round of updates, including metrics and all of the other emergency response input that we get from the team. So yeah, that's
great. I'd appreciate that. New York City's now got mostly BA2, and cases are increasing and hospitalizations, just like in other places where this has happened. And so, I hate to be the messenger here, but this may be short-lived, depending on to what degree this is impactful, that new variant. So let's not lose sight of the importance of still understanding to what degree it's prevalent in our community.
Absolutely, yeah, and we'll have more information about that on Friday. Thanks, Sammy. Okay, we're gonna move to Randy now. Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, thank you, Sammy, for bringing that up. So I just want to be clear, because I've had my second booster. I'm ready to go, but I want to know, is the expectation that we're going to have masks indoors, or what? Where does that lie? Because I know that the governor has pushed things out to July. So I just want to be clear before next week.
Right. There is, well, I'll just say this, and maybe Richard can add if he has any other thoughts. There is no longer an indoor mask mandate in Orange County, including in Carrboro. Town Hall is not operating with a mask mandate for employees, as far as I understand and have observed. And we are not requiring masks for people to enter Town Hall or to work in Town Hall. So from my perspective, that means that there is not a requirement for people to wear masks in Town Hall. Mr. Manager, maybe you can add to that.
Yes, that's accurate. But I will say that if an employee, and certainly if you all as well, feel comfortable wearing a mask, you're certainly welcome to do that. And I do see employees, including myself on occasion, in a mask. So that's allowed as well, acceptable as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I think that we've all found ourselves in settings where we're still wearing masks for sure. I know that I have. So.
Yeah, me too. At work, I still wear my mask at work, even though we're, it's lifted in Durham County. So where I don't feel comfortable, I'll put it on.
All right. Thanks for asking that, Randy. I appreciate the opportunity to clarify that. And again, I think, and we'll talk more about this next week, but we're going to have to get used to doing that again, being in person again, holding these meetings in person again. So we'll make it, I hope, a positive experience, and see how it goes. But looking forward to being in the same space with you all again for the first time in a really long time. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Richard, did you have something, Richard, before I?
Oh, he had his hand up. Sorry.
Oh,
No, sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
A motion by Barbara and a second by Randy that we adjourn. All in favor, please just raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Have a good night.
See y'all next week. Take care.
Good night, y'all.
You all.